I am back on my bullshit, everyone. I'm back. I know, I've been gone a whole week. How did you all survive? Yeah. I just needed to get a break from living alone, go and see some friends, eat some good food for once with my parents, so yeah. Hope you guys had a good Halloween. We're not going to talk about the next holiday coming up, because I quite frankly don't care for it. I forgot that for a lot of Americans, the next holiday is Thanksgiving. Sorry, I'm Canadian, so I don't... I forgot Christmas is between... Or it's not between anything. Thanksgiving is between Halloween and Christmas for Americans. Right? I think so. Alright. Welcome to the Archipelago. Archipelago? Archipelago? Or, I don't know how to... I'm gonna say Archipelago. I don't know, it just sounds more correct to me, I guess. I just needed something easy coming back to stream. Because I did not have fun with Cry of Fear, let me tell you. It might make it I don't know. If that one video on YouTube gets really popular, I might come back to it, but as it stands right now, hopefully not. Alright. Let's get into this. Every morning while you brew your tea, you stare out over the cliffs at the archipelago, squinting for signs of other lives across the gulfs. You were only a child when the city split, you were already an adult. Ooh. Pick and choose in your... I'm back and I already can't speak again. Let's say I was a child. You barely remember your parents. They were together during the split, and from the letters they sent you, you got the senses that they were content. Your mother is a talented artist, and sometimes she draws pieces of her island for you. They don't write as often now, not since your grandmother passed. You wonder whether they truly remember you. Sorry, my voice is kind of going. Different folks show up every day. Sometimes they bring something for you in return. Like food prepared from the vegetables in their garden, like bits of colorful fabric they found in the old textile mills. Personally, I would probably want more fabric. I like sewing and stuff like that, but if we're going like more sustainable, I would probably want their food. But even if they come empty-handed, you really don't mind. You have more than enough to go around. Every night through the clouds and fog, you watch the lanterns flicker to life on the island next to you. You make up stories about how they spend their nights. You build a fire hoping someone will see you from the other side. Probably that, honestly. It might be a little bit reassuring knowing that the people are alive. It's a hassle to clean up and your house is too warm afterwards. You wonder if they noticed. And wonder if they lit their lamps for the same reason. You clean up for the night and tuck yourself neatly into bed with a mantra. It is what it is. You are on steady ground. That's more reassuring, I would say. You are on steady ground. The words calm you enough to let you sleep. Tonight, though, you can't sleep. There's a mighty storm outside, strong enough to snap a small island in two. Something catches your eye. Oh shit. Somebody's already dead. 6 minutes in and somebody's died on stream. You can just barely spot the body flush against the cliff. It's still smoldering. Is it alive? You shimmy your raincoat over your head, light a lantern with quivering hands, and throw the door open. Oh shit, that's me, I think. Day 1, a new messenger. Alright. You gaze out your kitchen window at the island, take a deep breath, and begin preparing the tea for the day. Which bass notes would you like? Ooh. Can I see what these are? I think that might be... Okay, white tea. Lily, fennel, and persimmon. It always takes a few leaves at the start of the season and put them right out to dry in the sun. The flavor is more delicate than any other teas. Oolong. Oolong tea. I have to borrow Adelaide's oven overnight so that I can roast this tea at a low, consistent temperature. Rolling the leaves into balls is hard work. Green tea. This, my favorite one. I steam these leaves over my soaking tub out back. The steaming gives them a fresher taste than my black tea. And black tea. I massage these leaves before laying them out to dry in the sun, bruising the leaves with my fingers, giving the tea a strong, deep taste. I personally love green tea. It's the only one that I buy in like bulk, just because it's the only one I drink consistently enough, so I'll choose that. Which mid-note would you like? I'm guessing that is lavender. And I think that would taste really good. Barley, I roast the barley low and slow to bring out any other smoky taste. That's also barley. Caramel, Farah, who lives on the other side of the island, makes the caramel out of butter from her goats. She's too old to make the trek down here anymore. Apple, Eric's mom with needs for apple trees. It took 8 seasons to bear fruit someday. I hope we can tend to a whole orchard. I personally think that green tea and lavender might make for a really good combination. So we'll choose that. Which high note would you like? Jasmine, I don't know. I thought that was vanilla or something. I don't think my jasmine plant would survive this windy season, but I've kept it outside year-round for 3 seasons now, and it's thriving. I am fucking thriving. Rose, one of my only rose bushes, produces the right petals for tea, surprisingly. It's the one with the faintest aroma. Orange might actually taste pretty good. Before the split, the city kept greenhouses full of orange trees. We only have one old tree left now. And a glass dome by the textile mills. I don't know how much longer it's going to last. Mint. Green tea, lavender, and orange. That actually tastes a little bit funky. We're gonna go with rose, I guess. There we go. For today's brew, we've prepared green tea with lavender and rose. Oh, and then new people are gonna come depending on which ones you choose. I can sense it. Only last night she was a charred mess under a mountain of a parachute. You barely managed to save her from the blue. But the messenger, Lux, slept only a few hours, and now, having borrowed an old crutch she fashioned for a sprained ankle, she's somehow back on her feet. You busy yourself with brewing your tea to stop yourself from staring. That smells good. I noticed the scar on her face first, because we already know she has a broken leg, but I might actually not feel like this movie. She was barely conscious when you collected her from the cliffside last night, but she still cried out when you touched her leg. It must still hurt quite a bit, even with the medicine you gave her. But if she's in pain, she's doing a great job of hiding it. Her expression is belabored, but otherwise normal. Do I look like that much of a mess? You avert your eyes. Oh well. I'm not dead, at least, thanks to you. Better alive than dead, I guess. Are you sure this isn't too much to ask? Staying upstairs, I mean. I'm sure I can find an abandoned building to sleep in, and, to repair my parachute, of course. She shifts on her leg, then winces. Just try the scar on her cheek, or just try the crunch. I know that lightning can give pretty gnarly scars, so it's impressive it's already faded that much. Alright, I'll stay until I've recovered a little bit. Maybe I'll even have some tea while I'm here. Wonder why she was flying at night, wonder why she was flying off her scheduled route. Night would feel more dangerous, I feel. Messengers never fly at night, the risks are too great. Even in good weather, it's far too easy to get caught out in the dark. So why was she? Before you can ask, and perhaps anticipating that you will ask, she points up at the stairs behind you. I'm gonna make myself scarce. Let you get back to it. I'll see you around. With your tea prepared, people start to come in and take their seats for the morning. Lux stops at the stairs for a moment, then turns on her good heel and sits down at the table. You're under the prospect of going up was too daunting, but if she's in pain, she hides it well. You pour her a cup and bring it to her seat before she can insist on coming to get it. Mal brought a new book today. You're not sure how many times he's read each of the works in his collection, but he happily lends them to you whenever you ask, and you still haven't had to reread anything. They must be massive. He sets the book down on the table on top of his scarf and gives you a warm smile when you bring him his usual mug. Adelaide gestures at you as they pass by the window on their way in. To your delight, they've brought you breakfast, a fresh roll filled with pickled mushrooms and squash conserve. That actually might taste really good. It's still warm, which, along with the fact that they're slightly out of breath, tells you they must have run here to give tea fresh. Thank you so much, that is so kind. You pour their tea just as they come in, so they know that they are welcomed and appreciated. You settle in at your place behind the bar, occupying yourself and preparing some tea. With preparing some tea leaves for roasting and listen in on your guests' conversation. 2 new messengers in 1 week. It's a lucky time for our little island. Not sure me crash landing in a storm counts as you getting a new messenger. You can count yourself off, but you can count yourself lucky if you'd like. Oh, well, I do then. And where's your route usually? In the western corridor, around the factories. The storm brought you that far? It would have brought me farther if it had its way. It was quite the flight. You look like you've gotten in a few fights. Do I? Oh, no, I mean, as in you're strong, like, visibly. I see. I accept your compliment. And what about you? My name's Adelaide, and before you ask, no, I haven't been in many fights. Tragic. But I'd rather keep you talking than prattle on about myself. I grew up here, haven't been anywhere else. Rather boring, really. You'd be surprised how interesting the islanders can be for a messenger. Really? Certainly. Most of my colleagues are boring and the others are frightening. I'd go so far as to say that volunteering for the messengers weeds out the worst people on each island. Sample size of 1, but that doesn't seem to be the case here. 2 compliments. How generous of you. Gay. Huh, yes, well... I guess of all the islands in the archipelago, this isn't a bad one to be stuck on. There's a lot of people, for one. You can climb around in the old fabric mills, make yourself outfits from the scraps. My dad's name is Mal. He has a big book collection, and it's basically our library now. Because he's happy to share whatever you want to read. There's even a little forest in the north, and there's Cecily insists on calling it a park. Mal? Yeah, that's my dad. Older guy, long red dreads, head in a book, hard to miss. You don't look much like him. Sorry? I only mean, you don't seem like the type to keep your nose in a book. Then again, you're not hard to miss either, so perhaps there's some family resemblance there. You think so? I guess we are alike in that way. You're not so hard to miss yourself. I suppose not. I'd like to rest now, if that's alright. There's some things I need to think about. Of course, sorry to keep you. Anytime. I didn't realize there was going to be this much talking. And my voice is not all that warmed up, so sorry if I sound horrible. No letter today, huh, Dad? What makes you say that? You haven't turned the page of your book for 3 minutes. You always read slower when you're sad. You become so perceptive. I'm proud of you. Who were you expecting a letter from? Holden? Does Cressida have a new scroll for you to pick through? Or perhaps it's your friend in the factories? No one in particular. Factories, then. What were you hoping factories might say this time? More innovations in bird netting? I try not to anticipate the conversation. It only makes it harder when they don't respond. When they say something unexpected. Did factories say something that you didn't expect? Was it something bad? No, Addie. Has your love for dear factories gone unrequited all this time? Addie. Oh, have I hit a nerve? Adelaide, please drop it. I'm sorry, I was only kidding. It's alright. I didn't mean to snap. But let's talk about something else. Actually, I was going to ask, what did you bake this morning? I smelled whatever it was from across the courtyard. No, I wanted to say something. What did you want to say? Well, never mind. So the rumors are true. A castaway on our island. Were you really struck by lightning? I wouldn't call myself a castaway just yet, but the lightning part is true. And you're up and at it already? Barely a day later? The secret is to promise yourself you'll deal with the pain later, and then never do it. A bold strategy. I hope it works out for you. If there's anything you need while you recover, please let me know if there's anything you need while you recover. Mal? Malverniaro? No one ever calls me by my first name, but yes. Have you read my letters or something? I know Emmerich. Are you serious? If you're a lying messenger... I'm not. My route is in the western corridor. I go to the factories every other week. I deliver your letters and his. You do? You see him? But with that route, with the wind currents, there's no way you would end up here. Not even in a storm. You would have landed somewhere in the northwest. No, He said I could trust you. He said I'd be safe if I come here. Emmerich said that? Mal, I'm sorry. Please believe me. I'll tell you more later. You finish your chores every day by pouring out the leftover tea into the floors. Then you use it to wash them. You get on your hands and knees and scrub out the stress from the day into the wood floors. You wipe them dry with a rag, and you sit down and take in the sunset. The room smells faintly of lavender and rose. Today, Lux watches you from the rafters. If she has any thoughts on your routine, she says nothing. The Gulf we already know about. All that's left of the storm is a smell of petrichor and a light fog over the north end of the island. You wonder how the other islands made out. You look over the horizon, taking them all in, one at a time. And that's when it catches your eye. At first it looks like fog, but the way it catches the light is different. It's darker and thicker, and it seems to bring the night with it. That's not fog. That's smoke. You look up at Lux, and you know she sees it too. So why doesn't she look surprised? Uh-oh. By the time you get your lantern and your boots on, the sun has already sunk under the clouds. Mal's the only one you can think to turn to. When he answers the door, his head is still in a book on vertical gardening techniques for rooftops. But when he sees the look on your face, he snaps the book shut, grabs a quilted scarf from inside, and hurries out to come with you. Everyone on the island knows that Mal has the best eyes for the horizon. Only some know that he used to do this in the open sky. So, when he climbs your tree and leans out of the edge with his oculars, you don't question it. You know he wouldn't lose his balance. Finally, he comes down and walks quietly to your balcony, where he continues to watch. There's a look in his eyes you've never seen before. There's something about the way he's carrying himself. I'm not sure how to describe it. Is it shock, confusion, or excitement? Whatever it is, he turns to you and cuts off your thoughts. Look. He hands you the oculars. As soon as you press them against your face, Mal puts his hands over yours and gently angles them. Do you see it? You know what you're looking at almost instantly. The messenger headquarters is the largest structure built after the split, and by far the tallest on its island. It's tall, jagged, flanked by mountains, and surrounded by docks for its inhabitants. And right now, it's glowing bright orange. Fire. For almost as long as you can remember, every week a messenger has landed on your island. In the early days, people crowded around the landing, and the messenger had to sew his pack shut with scraps of fabric to keep all the letters from falling out. You keep the letters from your parents in a trunk underneath your bed. Every single one of them came through that headquarters. The paper on which they are written was milled there. The ink that was used to smudge your tiny fingers was processed there. Fewer people come to the landing now, and for the most part they come out of routine instead of excitement. You still time your weeks around the messenger's arrival. Your day still feels a little brighter when one of their letters is earmarked for you. If the mail stopped coming, even for just a month, you're afraid for the island, you're afraid for yourself. Oh, I think everybody would kind of go a little crazy not hearing from loved ones. You watch for the rest of the night as the smoke billows and the fire grows. You take turns with the oculars at first, but soon you no longer need them. You can see it with the naked eye. At some point, Lux joins you and watches from near the door, leaning on her crutch. You speak only to draw each other's attention. To a small explosion, to the echo of a sound you can't quite decipher, to smoking remains floating off into the clouds. Finally, dawn comes, but the fire rages on. With the sunlight, others begin to gather near the edge of the cliff. You bring out tea to them and keep them warm, but there are no conversations to overhear. The island is utterly absorbed in what has happened. For a few days, no one leaves their houses except to watch the flames. You can't remember the island ever feeling this tense. For one frightening evening, the wind blows the smoke towards the island, blanketing everything in an orange fog. Then, in the morning, it's gone. Somehow you know people will return today, and they will need tea. Day 2 of the fire. Alright. We're gonna do a little different. And either apples or caramels, I would say. But I'm gonna go with apples. China, would you like? The hardiest thing I've ever grown. This plant will outlive us all. I actually had my mom kill one of my mint plants. It was very tragic because she put it out on a day that was too windy, and then it kind of slowly started dying after that. It was shocked, I think. Alright. You prepare a brew of white tea with apple and mint. Mal has barely gone home since the fire started. He has busied himself with helping the others with their oculars and updating people on the condition of the headquarters. You overhear him telling someone that it is probably burned to the ground. He takes breaks in the cafe sometimes, or out on the balcony, once you catch him drifting off and set a blanket down next to him. This morning, though, with the smell of tea, he seems to come back to himself. He stands out on the balcony for a long time and takes in the clear sky. Finally, he comes back inside. It's pretty much gone. Nothing but ashes left now. Someone needs to check on Flavia. A sad look passes over his face as he turns away. With your tea prepared, people start to come in and take their seats for the morning. By now, the entire island knows that you're harboring a messenger. Some are suspicious of her, but they know they will get nowhere by confronting you about it. Still, Lux keeps your distance. You feel that you've bonded with her. You spent a good 12 hours together on that balcony by now, looking out at the fire. You bring a cup to her table in the corner. Flavia has not slept since she learned of the fire. Her posture is steady, and her footsteps graceful, but there are dark bags under her eyes, and she can barely meet your gaze when she walks in. She downs the first cup you bring her in one gulp, which you take as a sign to bring her another. Llewellyn can barely take his eyes off the horizon. There's barely anything to see anymore. The smoke is still too thick to see what's left of the messenger's headquarters. But he still stands like a sentinel at the edge of the cliff every day. You're surprised he even made it here. Despite the fear painted on his face, though, he still smiles and thanks you for the cup you bring to his table. You settle in at your place behind the bar, occupy yourself with preparing some tea leaves for roasting, and listen to your guest conversations. You must be Llewellyn Waters. Yes. Llewellyn. Please, wait, what? Who? Oh, you're the castaway messenger everyone's talking about. The very one? Well, I hope you recover quickly. You must be worried about headquarters. Yes, of course. So, is there something else you need? I know you must be suspicious, probably afraid. You have no idea when you're getting your next deliveries or what this means for your research or Sicily's. Sicily's? Is that a threat? No, not at all. No, you just want me to know that you know, not threatening at all. I apologize, only meant... I support Cecily's work wholeheartedly. And yours. Here, these are for you. From her pocket, Lux produces a cloth bag around the size of her fist. It's full to the brim. Seeds? Where'd you get these? The messengers have quite an extensive seed library, you know. Strictly off limits to most of us with the root, but I bent the rules. I tried to get enough for you to use some of them in your experiments. Apples, cherries, stone fruits, tomatoes, hemp. I've never seen so many in one delivery. He's gonna start doing drugs. But I thought you crash landed here. Why prepare all these seeds for me if you didn't know you'd be coming? Did you have something to do with the fire? Maybe. I'm not an arsonist. Please believe me, Yax, you're a pyromaniac. Big difference. But I was prepared in case something like this might happen. And one of the things I kept in my emergency bag was these seeds, for you. I hope that tells you something. I don't know what to say. I don't know if I believe you. But these seeds could save me months of sourcing. Years, maybe. I can't turn down that kind of gift. Thank you. Truly. Just doing my job. Flavia. Perfect. You're just the person I was hoping to see. Really? Yes. I wanted to know what about the emergency procedures for on the Messenger's Island. How would they evacuate in the event of a disaster? Where would they go? Do they have access to enough parachutes? Should we prepare for any supervisors here, or perhaps to somehow send resources to a renewed headquarters down the road? Merrick Marlowe? Do you know him? He was our old messenger here. Do you think he made it out okay? Or perhaps he was on a new route somewhere else? What do you think? Mr. Waters, I apologize. I don't know. I have no idea. Are you sure? If you think back, maybe there's something we could do here too. I would prefer to be left alone. Oh, of course. My apologies. What are you doing here? Lovely to see you too, officer. Why are you here, Lux? I got caught on the storm. Blown off course. No, Lux, why are you here now? Headquarters is on fire and you show up 2 days before we see the smoke? I knew from the moment we met that you were going to be a problem, but I never thought you would do something so... I will not be interrogated. The whole room falls silent. Flavia says nothing. I barely made it out alive. My parachute is in tatters, and I won't be able to walk for a month at least. And you have the audacity to accuse me? All I know is what I can observe. And what I see in front of me is an impulsive coward who kept a bag of stolen goods under her bed for emergencies. You think no one noticed you squirreling away supplies? What were you waiting for, Lux? If you took your head out of their handbook in your ass for half a second, maybe you'd have a better idea of what a shitstorm the messengers were in, long before the fire. How dare you? I already told you, don't interrogate me. See what happens next time you try. Girly Pop, you are walking on a crutch, and were terribly, terribly wounded like 2 days ago. Lux pushes out her chair with a grating creak, then finds herself another table. Flavia, utterly still, watches her go. You shut the door, and anxiety bubbles up in your chest like a kettle on a flame. The fire would really destroy the whole island? Were there any survivors? The island can be rebuilt, but these survivors can't be. You didn't realize how much having company over was helping you. Now the questions rush in to fill the silence. My parents even care. You try to drown the questions out with your chores, but the effort is futile. Your work only reminds you of more things to worry about. Oh, I get new seeds from my garden. I share my tea recipe. I feel like, limited resources now. Finally, immobilized by the weight of the situation, you sit down at a table and hang your head in your hands, only to hear a knock at the door. I brought you some food. You let Adelaide in, their hands full with what sounds like a stack of lacquered wooden boxes wrapped in fabric. They set it down on a table, untie the fabric, and carefully lift the topmost part from the box. They open the box and reveal an assortment of foods that might feed you for a whole week. This being Adelaide, there are baked goods of all kinds. But there are sliced fruits and vegetables too, and what looks like some sort of curry, carefully cordoned off to one side with a wall of kale. Nice! I wish I'd been able to get these out sooner, but it's taken me days to finish making it all. I had to scavenge a cauldron big enough for the curry from the old mill. I washed it out pretty good, but Hopefully I didn't miss any rust or anything. Look, I know you got letters from your parents pretty often. I can't imagine what it would be like not to be able to talk to my dad at all. Not knowing if I'd ever hear from him again. I just hope you're taking care of yourself. Adelaide repacks the rest of their boxes. You pour them a flagon full of today's leftover tea and make sure it sits safely on their shoulder. As they turn to leave, you see a flicker of recognition in their eyes. You are on the same shift now, caring for others in the only way you knew how. This time, after they leave, the questions don't come back. You tear a piece of braided bread in half and dip it in the curry. Hell yeah, they are also a bread dipper like me. The food makes you feel pleasantly drowsy. You haven't slept well since the fire. You decide to leave the rest of your chores undone. Perhaps you'll close the cafe tomorrow. You put away what's left of the box and head up to bed. As soon as your head hits the pillow, you drift off to sleep. The windy season comes in and fills the air with pollen from the poplars across the Gulf. A few weeks have passed since the messenger headquarters burned down. No one had landed on the island since then. No one is used to the silence. You often catch people pacing at the landing, or staring out with their oculars across the gulfs. But it's not all bad. You didn't realize until they were gone the tension the messengers brought to this place. You have to listen to the countless hushed conversations, whispers of smuggling, conspiracy theories, fears of parachutes on the horizon. Those have been silenced too, and their absence is serene. What's more, people have begun to speak more openly about what they've endured. They talk about messages lost in the mail or peppered with black marks. There were always subjects you knew not to broach if you wanted your letter to get to its recipient. They list the technologies that were stamped out, their inventors blacklisted from the messaging services, and effectively lost to their loved ones. They draw crude maps with memory and guesswork, and count all the islands that no one has heard from. It feels like draining a wound you didn't know you had. All you could feel before was the itch of the infection, and now everything hurts. But it feels better too. And amidst all this, Adelaide comes every week with a fresh box of food. Flavia comes around more often too now. Usually she just sits out on the balcony, where it's too windy these days to be comfortable for anyone else. Sometimes she comes to sit with you in the evenings, and you sip tea together and talk about frivolous things. The weather, how the garden's tolerating the wind, Flavia's allergies from the pollen. Same girl. One day, after a long silence, she leans back in her chair and stares out at the last dregs of sunset. What am I supposed to do now? Stay here with us? You open your mouth to speak, but Flavia stands up before you can. Without a word, she walks to the door, hands behind her back, and leaves. The next day, while you're picking the leaves for your tea, you spot Flavia at the landing, airing out her parachute. Day 3. What comes next? I don't think there's too many days. Alright. I'm gonna try something nice. And caramel. We know what characters like now, that's interesting. That is neat. That is very fun. You prepare a brew of black tea with caramel and rose. I don't know how good that would actually be. Making tea has finally started to feel normal again. Until now, it has been your port in the storm of the past few weeks, and the only way you knew how to help. Today, though, it is how it was before the fire. Simply something you do every day. because you're good at it, because you enjoy it. I think it's a bit of both. And because it lets you listen in on what other people are talking about, of course. Okay, didn't know it was a stalker. You take your place behind the bar. With your tea prepared, people start to come in and take their seats for the morning. Lux is noticeably lighter on her feet these days. You've made plans to take the cast off in a few days, but you get the sense she's nervous. What will the others do once she's fully healed? You don't know the answer either, but she at least knows that she has your support. This time, she insists on coming up to get the tea herself, and you let her. Mal has been spending a lot of time on the cliffs lately. Today, he has a windswept look about him. His jacket is a little tousled, and his fingers seem pretty cold from the eagerness with which he warms them up on the tea. I do the exact same thing. Okay. He has a book on flying machines. You've seen it before, but he's not hiding it anymore. Cecily hasn't looked so calm since she was a child. For a moment you feel a pang of guilt. You hadn't quite realized how much weight she'd been carrying looking over her shoulder all the time. Now that it's gone, she walks with a little spring in her step, steps up to the bar to get her tea, and as she takes it she meets your gaze and holds it for a moment. You settle in at your place behind the bar, occupy yourself with preparing some tea leaves for roasting, and listen to your guest conversations. I bet you're ready for some good news. Hello to you too, Cecily. Don't play coy with me. You're on the edge of your seat. Okay, tell me. I have a sailcloth. What? How? The Welland called in a favor with the hemp farmers. Merrick delivered it for me before the fire. I couldn't get it as big as I wanted, but Edna and the other kids found some scraps in one of the old mills, and with a little mending. The hemp farmers, they really took that risk for you? Why not? They've smuggled books to Llewellyn before, and they delivered. Smuggling books is one thing. Aiding in the construction of a flying machine is entirely different. Well, we all did what we had to. I guess I'll just have to thank them when I see them. I suppose you're right. Is everything okay? I thought you'd be happy about this news. Instead you're worrying about faraway hemp farmers who probably have no idea what they're really helping with. You want me to build this or not? Cecily, No, you're right. I'm sorry. Of course I don't want you to stop. If you get this machine off the ground, you can change everything. I want to be a part of that. I guess old habits die hard. Even though you're safe now, I still worry you should keep your guard up. I understand. Sometimes I catch myself setting my traps or checking my lookouts, like I'm going to wake up to them pounding on my door. I feel like it's going to take a long time for this feeling to go away. But it will go away, right? Well, I hope so. In any case, if you have this afternoon, I could use some help with the final schematics for the skeleton. Cecily produces a folio of papers from her bag. I'd love to. Oh, you must be Cecily. Yes, who's asking? Oh, my name's Lux. I suppose I'm just a messenger. I've heard rumors about you and your work. I'm very excited about it. I'd love to ask you some questions. I could even give you some advice if you were looking for it. I know quite a bit about aerodynamics, weather patterns. I have no idea what you're talking about. Unless I'm somehow obliged to speak with you. Oh no, not at all. I'm only curious. I'm not speaking on behalf of the messengers whatsoever. Then if you'll excuse me. So much for a direct approach. Lux, is this a good time to talk? Mal, of course. I just want you to know that if you need anything, you can come to me. I don't know how long you're planning to stay here, but if you need help with anything, or if it becomes unsafe, if you need protection, I'm sure I can protect myself, but thank you. Mal, I don't know what you heard. I heard nothing, but I know you were involved in what happened. What? I don't know any of the details, and I don't know your intentions, but I've been waiting for so long for something like this to happen. I just want you to know that you have my full support. Anything you need for what comes next. I don't know what comes next. Let me help you find out. Emmerich sent you here, right? Did he help you plan this? I didn't plan this. The only thing I planned was an emergency kit. I told Emmerich about it, and he said he would protect me. He would protect me if anything happened. So when things went south, I came here. If you know him, then you know what happened, what the messengers stole from us. Because of their power grab, I raised our child alone. I wanted nothing more than for their island to turn to ashes and blow away in the wind. Are you telling me you didn't share this? I understand your feelings now, and I don't disagree. Whatever happens now, I hope they don't return. But I didn't come here with a plan. I just came to ask for your help. I have to go. As you do your chores this evening, you catch yourself asking questions again. Ooh, what will happen to the archipelago? Some researchers theorize that long ago, the old city used to be just one part of something much bigger. There are people who believe the split was only the latest in a string of breaks. You don't know what to make of that, but Mal has told you stories of faraway islands and the people who live there. People who grow different food and speak in ways you wouldn't understand. If there are other people out there, have they lived through splits like the archipelago has? How did they cope? Did they find some way to stop it, or even to reverse it? The questions don't scare you, though. There will come a time when the island gathers and works out together how to answer them. Until then, you'll just have to imagine what might happen. This prospect of that used to scare you, but now you feel strong enough to give it a try. You look outside after finishing your chores and spot Cecily up on the hill. She's bending over to hold some of the massive contraption. It resembles a bird's wings in flight. Every so often she has to stop it from catching in the wind and flying away. She kneels down for a moment, fidgets with something, and when she stands back up, she's strapped to her machine. She stands utterly still for a moment. Then she takes off in a run and leaps into the air. As the island prepares to decide what to do next, people come and go more frequently. You were so busy trying to keep up, sometimes you forget to make tea at all. Still, people come just to sit, and as usual, you catch snippets of conversations. How's your leg? It's a lot better. We're just being cautious, keeping the cast on at this point. So I'll be back on my seat. Soon, I'll be back on my feet. That's good to hear. What will you do once it's healed? Will you stay here longer? I don't have much of a choice. Even if my parachute wasn't torn up, almost out of kerosene. I'd be surprised if there was any left on the Messenger's Island at this point. So, for now at least, I guess I'm stranded here. I see. There are a few empty houses near mine. Pretty beaten up inside, but nothing unmanageable if you're handy. Adelaide brings over bread most days. I usually manage to put a decent meal together from the garden. It'll probably be disappointing if you're used to Emmerich's cooking, but it's serviceable. Oh no, don't remind me. I've never tasted anything so delicious in my life as hash brown breakfast. I can barely stomach what they fed us at the headquarters after trying his food. From what I've heard, their food was was hard to stomach for anyone. You're not wrong. What's his life like? I always try to imagine, but I can't form a picture in my mind. How familiar were you with the factories before the split, I mean? I knew the layout of most of the buildings by name. He lives in the brickworks. It's towards the middle of the island now. The street winds around it, so you can't see very far in any direction. You might even forget that the cliffs are so close by. The whole island's mostly buildings and roads. There's almost no trees. Em said he hated how quiet it got, so he set up this absurd bird feeder on his roof. He loved feeding the birds. I'm loving feeding the birds as well. I've only got a few little visitors so far, but I've had a decent amount. He used to get in trouble for it. Well, I don't think bird feeder really describes what he did. It was practically a bird castle. We had water fountains, private nesting spires. He used to go out gathering dust in a little pan from the streets for their dust baths. Oh, that's quite an upgrade. Nothing bothers him about it, though, especially not since he harvests some of the eggs for food. And a few years back, he made this huge nest to catch migratory birds passing between the smokestacks. He told me they used to really worry about food in the early years. They eat better than most islands now. A nut. We use that trick on the Fairwind. What's this house like? Did you ever stay there? Oh, often. His guest room is twice the size of the messenger's cabin. He uses a kiln on the first floor for most of his cooking. It can get pretty hot, so he knocked a few holes in the wall, put in some skylights. You'd be surprised how bright it is. He sleeps on the second floor. He likes to sit in the chair by the window and keep a lookout. He's collected most of the books on the island, for you, I think, but there aren't many books in the factories. For me? Chaos. Yeah, he wears this ratty old scarf around the house sometimes. I offered to smuggle him a better scarf from the headquarters, but he said he made it for him. Yes, I did. Blue and orange. He loved the way the colors wove together. You should go see him, Mal. I have no way to get there. When I was a younger man, I could have made it on Cecily's machine, but if I tried and failed, I don't want him to live with the guilt. Not on top of everything else. Besides, I'm seeing him now. He's sitting in his chair and listening to the birds. There are tomatoes roasting in the oven. He'll eat them with the bread he's baked this morning. He's trying to read a book, but he can never really focus on the page. In the evening, he'll take a walk out along the cliffs. He'll stand close to the edge, but he won't be afraid because the gulf has never frightened him. He'll look out, and he'll try to imagine me. But the picture in his mind's eye will be blurry and indistinct. Maybe someday he'll return there, and you can help him picture this place. I'll tell him. I promise. I'll find a way. Thank you. Lux has moved into an empty building across the garden. Adelaide has finally relaxed their baking schedule, and Flavia seems content on her own. You finally have the place to yourself again. You wipe the tables and floors, and wash every cup until they're spotless. You fix yourself a meal, and read a book by the light of your lantern. Finally, you sit at the window and look out at the lights on the other side of the gulf. Something catches your eye this time. One of the lights is moving a little bit, and then abruptly it stops. You open up your oculars, squint into them, and focus in on the light. Through the dark and the fog, you can just make out the outline of another person looking back at you. Congratulations on completing your first playthrough of the Archipelago. Play again and make teas, experience new interactions, and spoken lines. You need to skip text by holding down the... Oh, I did not read that I did not read that fast enough. Alright. That was not very long. Not very long, but I would say that was pretty good for coming back after a week. Yeah. Alright, hopefully tomorrow. I'm hoping to do a little bit of the remastered version of the SCP Containment Breach, because in my mind, it is still spooky season, and also that game is hell long, so I can take breaks and come back to it in between, etc., but, you know, so hopefully we'll do that, and finally, I'm gonna order the part that I need to connect my Switch to the computer so I can finally stream Tears of the Kingdom. Hopefully soon. Maybe in a couple of weeks. Hopefully. I hope. We'll see. Alright, thank you for joining me on this cute little adventure. And I might play it on my own a little bit, because it's very sweet, and I want to see how many different endings you can get.